Hello and welcome to another episode of Athletics for Life podcast. We're your hosts, Jeff and CD. And on our show, we like to interview interesting people in the world of sports and just talk with them about the lessons that they've learned in athletics. This year, we're focusing mostly on athletic directors around Asia. We're using this as an opportunity to connect with other people in the same role as us and just figure out what they're doing in their programs and try to pick their brains a little bit about how we can make our programs even better and hopefully bring you guys some great ideas as well. So Jeff, why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest for today?
I will do that, but before I do that, I just want to thank all our previous guests, the connections that we've gained from this show, for being on our podcast. We've learned so much and from everyone. So thank you for that. But we're going south. We're going to a nice warm climate, something that we haven't seen for a while, CD. We're going down to Singapore. We're going to talk to Scott Hooper. Scott is the activities coordinator, director at UWC in Singapore. So it's going to be interesting for us to hear about his programs and especially about middle school programs and how he structures it. They're doing a lot over there. It's a massive international school, over 2,000 students, over 600 activities. So we're very excited to learn from Scott about how to run a good middle school activities program. So we're going down to Singapore.
All right, let's go. All right, well, we're sitting down with Scott Hooper out of Singapore. Great to have you, Scott. Why don't we just take a moment to start? Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and then where you're at now.
Thanks, Jeff and CD. Scott Hooper, born and raised in Oxfordshire in the UK. I studied sports development and PE at Leeds Met University, which is also known as Carnegie in the north of England. First started teaching after that at a sports college in Oxford, so my hometown, called King Alfred Sports College. So I did my kind of NQT year there, perfect introduction to sort of teaching, working alongside sort of great teachers, including actually, fun fact, meeting a PE teacher called Laura, who is actually my wife now. So that's where we met 14 years ago. So special part of me is obviously meeting her and doing my first year teaching at that school. Did 2 years in the UK before sort of intrigued about international education and wanting to kind of test the waters. So I got my first post in 2010 in Hong Kong in an international school called King George V, KG5, which is part of ESF. So some people who know about Hong Kong will know kind of ESF. They've got kind of over 20 international schools there. It's one of the oldest schools actually in Hong Kong, and I taught there for 7 years. So I taught PE, but I also had various different kind of roles there as well within the school, including the head of sport. So basically similar to an AD. So after 7 years of teaching there, we had our daughter and was looking for maybe a little bit of change. We got PR status in Hong Kong, so we felt like we could maybe move away and potentially come back. So we were looking something similar to Hong Kong. And that was where I saw a job at UWC East in Singapore. So we moved there in 2018. UWC has an amazing reputation. Obviously the holistic kind of value-based education that they offer there. And it was a school that I always kind of kept my eye on. And yeah, fortunate to be able to get a position there. It was a PE position. So I kind of took a little bit of a sideways step, maybe just teaching PE for a few years to see what would happen. And yeah, I was lucky after a couple of years and fortunate to be able to apply for the head of middle school activities. And that's the role I've been doing now for 18 months. Yeah, we love Singapore, love UWC, everything that's part of the community here. My wife actually teaches PE at our other campus. So we have UWC East and we have UWC Dover. So she's actually part-time at Dover. So best of both. We're not kind of directly working with each other. My daughter goes to the school. My son's going to be joining in next year in August. So it's a real kind of mission aligned school, one which, as I say, we're grateful that we're part of this school. Amazing colleagues, great students, and yeah, world-class facilities. So I guess that's my journey so far.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough, Scott, to go to Dover in 2000, the school, UWC Dover in 2016, I think. It's been a while, but yeah, amazing campus facilities and just a dream to work there, I think, for any PE AD.
Yeah, definitely. They're grateful for the opportunity working here. It is a great school. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your transition? How did you feel the transition from being the PE teacher to a middle school AD? What were some of the struggles or some of the difficulties, or how has the transition been for you?
Yeah, well, as I say, I was head of sport in Hong Kong and then kind of went back into PE teaching. And to be honest, I loved it. I loved just getting back involved with the students, getting to know them. Obviously, a new school, I think it would be quite hard to transition maybe straight into an AD role without maybe knowing the students, depending on your teaching role. So yeah, it was good just to be back in the classroom and making those kind of interactions and those relationships. I'm big on relationships with the kids. So yeah, it was a nice way to settle into a brand new school. It's a huge school. But after 2 years, to be honest, I was kind of wanting a little bit more and a little bit more maybe responsibility and to get myself back involved in a bit of leadership. So to have that opportunity with the activities program, it was just good timing for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can you talk a little bit about the middle school side of things with the middle school athletic director, the middle school's coordinator? Because, you know, a lot of times that's one area that gets kind of shied away from. You know, everyone's so focused on the high school sports, and, you know, middle school, or, you know, those under 15, under 13 teams can kind of be second thoughts. So what's it like at your school, and what's your role in making sure that's a quality program?
Yeah, well, it's a big campus. So we've got sort of 2,600 students. So it's a big school. So it's actually very much split into kind of primary, middle, and high. And there are teachers who kind of specialize within those areas. There are teachers who kind of interact between the two. But within the activities program is actually one of the 5 interlinking elements of the school. So it's a big part. The school values it a lot. So we actually have, with our roles of heads of activities, we have 3 of us. So we have somebody who oversees the primary and specializes in that area. Then you'll have me, who specializes in the middle, and we have somebody who specializes in high. So it's not that you kind of got one person doing all 3, like in many schools, or one person kind of trying to mix between the 2 and maybe has more interest, like you say, in the high school. So I think that sort of model really works. It allows me to really get to know those students and try and find out exactly what they want from their program and make it as specific to those students as we can.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit, Scott, about how you guys set up the philosophy for those 3 programs? Is there a you know an alignment for that, or how do you do that with your team?
Yep. So we very much have a kind of explore, develop, and pursue. So explore this is kind of our slogan. So we use explore interests, which is kind of our primary thing. So we try and give the students as many opportunities as we can within that area. We then have develop, and that's kind of develop your strengths. So that's where in middle school, we're still trying to give them as many opportunities as we can, but we want them to kind of develop their strengths a little bit more in those areas and maybe focus on maybe a few less than they would in primary school. And then pursue passions is kind of our slogan, which we across the activities program, but certainly within high school, that's when they're starting to really kind of specialize in what they really want to do. And then hopefully something that they will continue to do when they finished at UWC and for the rest of their life. So that's kind of how we try and develop our program.
That's awesome. I might steal that. So Jeff, if you see anything from BSU with that on there, well, we'll know where it came from. Because I actually just had a meeting earlier about kind of the goal and the purpose of our ECA program and trying to really nail that down and redefine it. And so, yeah, there's a very good chance that I just, yeah, that's ours now too. So
all about sharing, right?
Yep. How many sports do you have? What teams do you have? How many sports facilities, that sort of stuff? Okay,
yeah. So our program's divided into 7 areas. So our kind of mascot is the dragon. So we have our dragon sports program, but that for me is just one area of kind of what I oversee with the activities. So my role isn't just sport. I also oversee kind of arts and performance, create and innovate, learn and lead. So lots of different activities that come under these sort of things. So your music, your drama. But in terms of Dragon Sports, we pretty much run a program similar to majority of schools. We focus on majority of the sports that most schools would do.
Can you talk a little bit about how you guys set it up, the gymnasiums, facilities, because with so much going on, right? It's a pretty organizational thing, right? The talk and scheduling. What are some of the tools and things that you guys are using over there to organize everything? Maybe share resources with parents, communication.
Okay. Yeah, so our program, we have a weekly activity program, and that's basically our weekly activity program is something that happens weekday in the mornings. So we have a lot of sessions that go on in the mornings because we have so many activities. We have, I think, over 600 activities that run. So it is a huge program. So we have to try and factor in, like you say, the facilities that we have and the availability. So yeah, we do morning sessions. We do after school lunchtime sessions in there as well. So we try and fit some lunchtime sessions in. We do after school that kind of is split into two. So it runs from 3 till 4:30 and then again 4:30 till 6. So that's kind of Monday through to Friday. An extension onto our activity program is also our community activity program. And that's what runs in the evenings and also at weekends. And that's really a pathway for students who want to continue to grow in any of the areas that we offer. So if it was, for example, sports, they could be part of our Dragon Sports program after school. But if they want to, they can also be part of our community program, which might go on from say 6 till 7:30 in the evening, or it might go on at the weekends. And we have to offer all of these programs because of the amount of activities which we have on offer. So yeah, it is a big program. Additionally to that, it's probably just worth mentioning as well, we have a development center program. So this is where we specialize in 3 different areas. So we've chosen to do those based on our facilities. So one of them is swimming. And for swimming, we have about 450 students involved, who are involved actively during the school day, okay, and also weekends. We have a gym program, which has about 650 students. And we also have a football program, and we partner with Chelsea Football Club. And that also has 350 students. So it's a big school. There's a lot going on. But yeah, that development program is something that really has allowed us to push forward to the kind of next level. Like we run holiday programs through that. We host invitationals, obviously pre-COVID, with those teams that are training regularly. So they're obviously highly committed athletes. They also go and compete overseas in competitions as well.
What impact has COVID had in your programs? Has it really, I mean, it's put a damper on, I think, just about everybody, but for you specifically, with so many things going on, how have you managed all that?
Yeah, no doubt. Everyone's been impacted. We're no different there. I think mainly, and I think I'm talking now from a middle school perspective, it's the mental health of the students that we've noticed. Obviously, their motivation, their commitment, which pre-COVID was extremely good. Like all students were really committed to the program. We'd have like 98% of students involved in activities. So we had a high commitment level, behavior even, it's impacted all of those things. If we were looking at it from a Dragon Sports perspective, our numbers have reduced. That's one of the big sort of things that how it's impacted. Numbers have been reduced. And I think that's just loss of competition. The fact that they can't represent their school and the pride of representing their school and having those fixtures has gone. So it's been frustrating for us as a department, constant changes, obviously. So when COVID obviously first kicked in, we were sort of home-based learning. So as an activities team, and as I said, it's not just me, there's 3 of us, we were like, how can we keep this going? How can we keep our activities program going? So we created an extensive kind of online activities program for the students to continue to be involved. And fortunately, we were only away from school for, I think it was 12 weeks in Singapore. So we were very lucky there. So we were able to get them back onto campus, and obviously it wasn't the same as what it was before. For example, and I'm sure you're aware, like group sizes, the numbers. So in Singapore, we've kind of gone from 5 to 8 to 2, and they were kind of the bubbles that the students could kind of interact. So again, that had massive implications on what we were doing and challenges for the coaches, for the teachers involved. And from us running the program, just ensuring that the staff kind of followed those protocols. For example, we've got a huge football pitch, but it's overlooked by kind of HDB apartments. And we were always worried, that like our group sizes were maybe more than they should have been, and they would have been reported to MOE and you get in trouble. So there was, for us, like constant stress just to ensure that we were keeping on track of all the changes and making sure everything was done as well as we could. And as I say, I think we're pretty grateful in terms of being in Singapore and how it is. I've got friends obviously still in Hong Kong and around Southeast Asia, and I'm aware like it's different there, and some are still sort of home-based learning. So we're very grateful that we were able to kind of get back in. But I guess in answer to your questions, it's kind of a growth mindset that we had as a department. We saw this as an opportunity. We saw it as an opportunity to maybe look at our current program and work out kind of what was working, what wasn't working. So it gave us an opportunity to maybe remove some of those kind of activities that only had, a number of people sign up for them. It gave us an opportunity to work with our students, and we had a bit more time to work with our students and find out actually what do they want in the program, which in a normal year, you might not have the same sort of time to be able to do that. And then I guess with sport, again, we had a theme which was called Beyond Fixtures. So this worked really well for us. So we were pretty clear that there was not going to be fixtures when we returned in August, I think, of 2020. We didn't know how long that was going to be. But we got our coaches, we got our staff, we got our students, and we said, like, we've got to have a growth mindset about this. Let's try and turn it into a positive. So we kind of looked at kind of what we could do. So with the students, we were looking at kind of obviously focusing on skills and trying to improve in there rather than focusing on maybe competition, which we would normally do most seasons. We looked at their fitness as well. So we looked at kind of advanced fitness methods that we could maybe introduce, which worked really well, and looked at each sport individually. We worked, because we've got big programs, like I said, with the gym, the swim, the football. We tried to get those head coaches involved in actually connecting sports. So kind of something that you might do in gymnastics, we got our head gymnast coach to go up to the football team and kind of share good practice in terms of what they do with their training and see if there was any sort of link that they could do. And the students really enjoyed that, just to experience something different, going into different sort of environments and connecting in different ways. Another thing which was pretty good that we did, we invested in some technology. So we use Player Maker. I don't know if you've come across that. So wearable kind of sports tech. So this was really, really cool. And the kids absolutely loved this. So it was really just to be able to analyze what they were doing on the field. And it would really kind of monitor their performance, how far they ran, what their top speeds were. For kind of football, it was able to track how many touches they had on their right foot, how many touches they had on the left foot. And they would then get that data shared to them through a PDF that we received and would share with them after each training session. So that helped a lot, that sort of thing. And then finally, I think the other good thing that we worked on was goal setting with the students. So it gave us, again, as I say, more time because we weren't focusing on competition and fixtures. So it was kind of goal setting as a team. What do they want to try and achieve within this time frame of beyond fixtures on a one-to-one basis as well? What are your goals? What do you want to achieve over this season or this year? So our numbers did decrease. I'm not going to say it's a perfect world, but yeah, these kind of things that we tried to implement really helped.
Amazing how creative all these activities directors and ADs are in those teams. We've been talking to many people on the podcast, Scott, and some have been online for 2 years almost, CD, right? That's it. And
Yeah.
they were sending us amazing virtual programs, and these people get these kids engaged is just amazing.
Yeah.
Also, I got a lot of resources from virtual apps and stuff, so I'm definitely gonna check that out, Scott. Thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah, no worries, all good.
What are you guys up to right now? Can you play again to talk about fixtures? Are the kids playing again? Are you planning for competition, local travel, or going overseas? What's happening right now?
Yeah, good question. So we've just had some positive information come through, and this is what we're planning at the moment. So it's basically the return of sport finally, which is exciting. It's not how we knew it. It's a maximum of 10 players that can come together. So basically everything that we do in terms of sport will be on a 5v5 basis. So it's just about adapting and kind of being flexible with sports that we can do. There was a lot of work that we needed to do to apply to MOE to kind of get the permission to do this. And we finally got there, lots of paperwork. Basically, the students have to be vaccinated in order to be able to play. And they also have to take like an ART test prior to actually playing. So they're the two kind of things that we need to ensure that the students have done in order to play. So at UWC, we're lucky to have kind of our sister campus, Dover, who have applied as well. So we're going to be, hopefully, when we return after Chinese New Year, we're hoping to have the return to sport. So we're very much at school this week, building up the kind of excitement levels, trying to get kids back into that kind of mindset of competition. And yeah, it's a good vibe at the moment. We're just hoping nothing changes over Chinese New Year in Singapore that would deflate that kind of motivation. So that's really good. Secondly, we also have been given permission to allow parents back onto campus, which is really good. So that basically means, again, they need to prove that they've been vaccinated. They need to sign into the school, but it does mean that now they can start attending kind of training sessions that we're running. The school prior to COVID was a big community school. Parents would always be around. You would always see them after school, watching training, having a chat with the coaches. It had a real sort of good vibe around it. And we've lost that over 2 years. So to be able to have that back is great. So we're planning a share week when we return for all of our activities. Season 2's going to have one more week when we return. So the idea will be parents can actually come onto campus and have a watch of some of our activities and get back involved. So yeah, very positive news coming our way.
I'm curious with the 5-a-side, are you going to try to do sports like volleyball where it's traditionally 6-a-side and we'll just figure it out with 5? And
exactly, yeah. So as many sports as we can. We're keeping it in with our season. So volleyball is one of them that we're going to be doing, and yeah, bring it into a 5v5 format. Interestingly enough, though, we also have to be able to match of what our other school, Dover, are doing. So for example, if they only had 4 students who could play, then we would have to adapt again and just play with 4. So it's a lot of back and forth. How many players have you got available? How many have we got available? Trying to make it work. But we were talking to the coaches today, and yeah, if we had to do 4v4, then that would be the case. We're trialing it with rugby as well, so it's going to be interesting with some of these sports. But you never know; it might stick, and kids enjoy the different versions that we're playing.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe 10 years from now, there'll be a 5v5 conference worldwide that spawned from this.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What are some of the things that you're kind of most proud of that you've been able to do in this difficult time?
Yeah, I guess, again, we're shifting our mindset from a lot of the things we used to do. So one of the things I've done in middle school is really worked on our activities council group. So that's students made up of grades 6, 7, and 8. So we changed the format of this year. So they've had to apply to get into this. And we've got a real strong cohort this year. So I have about 20 students in total. And they have a real passion, as I mentioned earlier, that we use passion a lot here, but they have passion for activities in lots of our different categories. So their kind of scope this year has been very much on kind of promoting and celebrating. And previously that would be really easy to do in terms of celebrating all the things that are going on, all the competitions, the trips overseas. Now it's a little bit difficult to get that information and to kind of stay positive. So one of the things we've done there is really kind of spotlight on just passions. So rather than maybe the students who are high performers, it's just focusing on students who have a passion for an activity, and hopefully a passion for an activity over various different categories, and profile them in the school. So that could be kind of interviewing them. It could be just profiling them on some slides, giving us some sort of interesting facts about them. And that's really been popular with the students. They're all keen to kind of be displayed on. We have a big screen that they get kind of displayed on. We also share those on a mentor. So our school works with mentors. So they see them on a Monday. Every Monday, there's kind of a reel of highlights of what's happening and sort of promotion and celebration. So we're showcasing them there as well. So that's been really cool. Other things I'm proud of is how we've really sort of got student voice into our program now. And I think, as I said, this was done mainly because of COVID. It gave us this opportunity, but for me, this is so important. And I've learned so much from this about student voice and how much of an impact this can have. So we've really kind of now, we've got a system in place where students are able to kind of choose or recommend activities that they would like to see. And then there's a process that they can go through the student activities council group to make this happen. And we've brought a lot of those to life this year. So an example would be skateboarding. So skateboarding wasn't part of our kind of program. And now it is, I think, mainly because of the Olympics, how popular it was there with our students. But it was a massive gap from us. And yeah, the students made it happen. So part of their role was to go out and find providers that could potentially offer this, maybe teachers within the school that might have that passion. And yeah, it's now a big part of our program. So that's, for me, been a real sort of nice addition. Another one I would say would probably be we've implemented a kind of activities journal now into the school. So the students basically are creating a portfolio of what they're doing in a year. And they do this through their mentor, through PSE, but it's linked to activities and also linked to service, which is also a big element of our school. So within this kind of journal that they do, the idea is that they plan their seasons ahead of time of what activities they want to do. They see the list of activities. They set goals within those activities. And we try and link them into our values and our skills and qualities in the school. And the idea is they then share this obviously with their friends during kind of mentor time. They'll share this with their mentors, their parents. And we want this just to be a journal that they keep hold of as they travel through middle school. And then also we're hoping that it will kind of be added also into high school as well, because it would be great for them to be able to use this when they're applying for kind of universities and stuff like that. It's kind of their journey through school, through the activities program. And obviously if they have a passion for dragon sports, then that will be seen through there. So the idea is they take pictures, they get videos of them training, they put their goals, which I mentioned earlier. We've been focusing a lot about goals. And yeah, we're quite big on growth mindset. So we have kind of get them to come up with their own quotes on being kind of committed to the program and what they want to achieve. So that's been big for us and something that I'm proud of. And I'll give you one more. Another one is our leadership program. So this is something that we've really been focusing on this year. And that's basically looking at high school students predominantly coming into middle school and going into primary school, because there's not these trips, there's not these fixtures, but if we look at it from a sporting context, there's a real passion there, but they've got a little bit of free time now. So we've actually come up with our own leadership program through coaching and officiating. So the idea is, you mentioned earlier, Jeff, about how do you schedule it, or they obviously don't train at that. So high school train on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday for sports, while middle school and junior school is on a Tuesday and a Thursday. So say, for example, you've got basketball as your passion and they train 3 times a week. They can also contribute and give back to the school and feel like they've got a bit of purpose by getting involved in the middle school or the junior school basketball program. So our team will basically have this as a sign-up option. And if they are keen, that they enroll onto a program for a season. and they learn all about coaching and officiating and leadership. And we work with our coaches so that they get kind of hands-on experience working with the junior kids. And we give them a t-shirt, we give them like a certificate at the end that they can put onto their portfolios. And it's been something that has grown since we've returned, when we were kind of remote learning. This was kind of a big focus for us. And yeah, now students are coming up to us. We're not focusing on every sport, but we're now getting kids coming up to us and being like, for example, like softball, can we do the student leadership program in softball? Because they've experienced it in another sport, or their friends experienced it in another sport and told them about it. So yeah, some really cool experiences are coming out of that kind of leadership program as well.
Those are some amazing things to be proud of. CD and I have been trying to get some leadership going on, but you've got 4 things going on, and we are trying to get 1 thing off the ground. It's amazing to hear about those things. You work at a very vibrant, creative place. You've had many roles already. I'm wondering, what kind of personal development are you still doing to grow in your profession and to get better as a professional?
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of kind of PD and always have been. I was involved with APEC in terms of setting that PE conference up in Hong Kong. I don't know how many years ago that was now, maybe 7 years ago. So I was part of that founding committee that set that up, because when I was a PE teacher in Hong Kong, we felt that at the time there wasn't a huge amount of PL that we could get to us. So yeah, was part of that committee setting that up, and still involved. Now it's called Phase. So now sort of still involved in that as well. I'm also pretty sort of a fan of Twitter in terms of PL. So obviously lots of stuff on there, and LinkedIn as well. So all forms of social media, to be fair. So yeah, I find that a great source of connecting with people. I think that's been really good for me. The Globetrotting network, and now, because obviously that's ADs, and I'm not specifically an AD. ADs kind of sits within our role, but it's activities they've now set up, which has been great, an activities network. So that's been really good. So it's Nick DeForest, who's obviously part of the Globetrotting, and Erin Marsh there. So they've set that up. So that's been really cool in terms of looking at it from the activities perspective, not just the ADs. They ran a conference in December, which was really cool. And they run kind of, I don't know, 3 times in a year, they'll run kind of meetings and round tables and stuff and have discussion points. So that's been for me a great learning experience. I'm still PE teaching. So within my role, I'm still doing a little bit of PE teaching. So we've got a bit of a shift in focus with PE at the moment, looking at it more from kind of a health perspective. And we've just introduced a new Be Well course, which has been really cool for our grade 9s and 10s. So moving away kind of from the traditional sports-based focus in PE and trying to take it a little bit more towards health. So that's been really cool. And I've just signed up to Positive Education and an online course there to try and just develop my knowledge a little bit more and to support the teaching of that course.
No, that sounds really, like you sound really busy, Scott. Sound like you got a lot going on with everything, all the activities. And yeah, we interviewed the Globetrotting guys last season or last year. Really good guys.
Yeah, for sure.
They're doing a really good thing too.
Yeah.
How do you balance it all? How do you kind of balance everything that's on your plate, professionally, as well as, you mentioned your wife and kids at home. How do you make sense of it all?
Yeah. It's a difficult balancing act, but just try and be fair to both sides, kind of family and work. I've just had my 3rd child, so a newborn. So often we'll feel with this role, as I said, we finish at 6, so our activities finish at 6. So often you get home late and you feel guilty. So it's just about balancing, trying to choose 1 or 2 evenings a week where you can maybe get away early. I like to try and keep fit. So I commute to and from school. So I feel like I kind of get a little bit of my fitness in there. If I do want to do kind of a workout or whatever, I try and go in the morning. So it kind of doesn't kind of disrupt sort of family life too much. I've been quite fortunate in the sense of, since I've been doing this role, it has kind of pretty much been through COVID times. So I haven't really experienced kind of how activity is and how our sports program looks when there's everything going on. So it's interesting when those times come, then it'll be even more of a balancing act and more plates spinning. But yeah, for me, key is kind of fitness and trying to fit that in when I can, and trying to choose a few kind of days in the week where I can maybe escape a little bit early and get home to see the family.
Is that allowed at your school? Like, can you make your own time schedule? Like, because you're working late, is that okay? Is that a little bit flexible?
Yeah, we're lucky because there's 3 of us, so it's not just me. So we can kind of between us work it. So if we need to get away early, then we can work together and let that happen. And yeah, we have admin staff who will be here till 6 if there was any kind of issues or whatever. So yeah, we can make it work as long as it's not, every day.
Yeah, and often early for an athletic director is still 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right. And so today's an early day. I get to go home. Yeah, I'm in the same boat where I walk to and from school. I only live about 15 minutes away, and we have a newborn as well. Okay. And so the same thing of I should really try to get home and help the wife and just be there with the kids. And there's that constant pressure to make sure you're doing your part on both ends.
Totally. That's it.
What are some of your goals looking forward, looking towards the future?
Yeah, I think hopefully with what I mentioned about kind of sport returning is continue to kind of develop the program that we've got here. So I think continue to make those changes that I've mentioned and to continue to improve our program. I came into the role and when I first started, it was like the program's amazing. There's so much going on, but when you actually get into it and you start working out what's happening, there's always changes that you can make. And I think that's, for me, something that I've learned is don't be afraid to make changes. Although it looks good from the outside, you can always make improvements. So yeah, that's definitely kind of one of my goals. I'm very much still in with the PE teaching as well, and really got a passion there to continue to teach. And I mentioned kind of the be well and the health element. So I'm really excited about the shift that our school is going in and how that might be implemented lower down into the school. So I mentioned we're focusing on grade 9 and 10 at the moment. So yeah, I'd love to kind of see that implemented into middle school as well. So yeah, there's lots of kind of goals there. I'm going to continue I mentioned kind of PD as well. So, and I was watching actually some of your previous podcasts. So potentially getting involved with, is it NIAAA, and looking at some of the PL opportunities there and looking at maybe how I can get kind of a little bit more experienced in this role through that network.
Yeah, just to speak on the NIAAA, and feel free to jump in here, Jeff. They're really great. They've got a ton of courses. As far as a lot of them are US based in their focus, but they are expanding to have more international athletic director focused courses. You can get certified. I think the first step is to be, just registered as an athletic administrator. And then with certain courses, and then there's an exam, you can earn a certification as an international athletic administrator. It's too many A's, too many acronyms. But yeah, they're constantly adding new courses, variety of like in-person sessions. For us, it's usually the middle of the night, but also webinars that you can join and just, or not webinars, online classes that you could be a part of.
Yeah. No, so keen to get involved in that and continue to grow. Definitely.
And not only that, Scott, like I'm not from the US, and you can probably hear that. Yeah. But I've learned a lot from the NIAAA, because a lot of the things you can apply to your situation. Yeah. And I would highly recommend that for everyone who wants to grow. So in your role, and I've been listening, and I'm like, man, how does he do all of that? This sounds amazing to work at UWC, but also a lot of things going on. Yeah. For someone listening, wants to go to a role like yours, what's some of your best tips and tricks for someone growing in a position in the future?
I think I think show passion. I love the word passion, but show passion in that area is key. Networking, I think, is also another one. So get to know the program. So I came into UWC PE. I had my experience from the head of sport in my previous school, but show interest in terms of what they're doing. So I was regularly having those kind of informal chats with the heads of activities, finding out kind of what their vision is, like why do they do certain things. So when that role did come up, I think my name was already kind of known that I would be interested in potentially applying for it. And another one key is relationships, right? So just building those positive relationships with the students, because I think here even when you apply for a position, students are often involved in kind of the interview panel. So I think relationships with the students is key, relationships with the staff, building them, getting to know them, and just be that kind of people person. Because I think this role, with 600 activities, we have kind of a lot of teachers, but then we have also a lot of external staff as well. So you need to have that be a people person and be able to interact and show that you care, and have a bit of empathy at the moment as well. Like we've got a lot of staff who are struggling mentally. I mentioned earlier the students, but staff as well. And where possible, if I can step, if an activity, we try not to cancel any of our activities. So if a member of staff, for example, kind of contacts me and says, I'm not feeling it today, or I can't do it, it's just being able to step in there and having kind of that empathy for them. And so, being that people person is another one that I would recommend. And then, we mentioned seeking opportunities and PL. So as early as you can start networking on kind of Twitter and LinkedIn. And I've learned so much from what other people are doing in other schools around the world, and like listening to your podcast and some of the people that you've had on there. It makes you think, and it's like, how have we not thought of that? And one of my colleagues used to do a lot of this pre-COVID, but he would apply and actually go and visit schools, kind of not just in like Singapore, but actually physically go to the school and see it in action, because we can all tell what we do. And I've tried to explain what we do in our program, but until you see it live in action, so where possible, obviously trying to do that as well.
Yeah, it's been definitely interesting having these conversations with you and a lot of the other ADs, because people will say something and it's like, that's such a great idea, and it seems so obvious. Why were we not doing that? Yes. And so it's been great for Jeff and I just to get so many different ideas of, obviously not everything's going to work for us or in our schools, but there's been so many things that's just like, I could do that, or I could do something similar. That's a change I could make. And it's just that best practice, and keep having your eye out there to find something that could just make your program a little bit better. Yeah, that's it. So we're reaching towards the end of our time. We don't want to take too much time for you. We know that you're definitely a busy man. So what's next for you? What's kind of the next steps for Scott Hooper?
Yeah, good question. I think certainly for the next year or two, having 3 young children, and being in Singapore, which is certainly a family-friendly place and somewhere where we're very happy and content. I think for the next couple of years, it'll be here in Singapore and at UWC, trying to, as I say, develop our program and continue to grow as a person. But I think deep down, I think COVID has brought this to the forefront even more, probably getting closer to home. So I don't think that will be necessarily the UK. I think the idea of teaching back in the UK maybe scares me a little bit, if I'm being honest. Very different to what I've experienced in Hong Kong and Singapore. So I think it would probably be looking at Europe. I've got my eye a little bit on Switzerland. There's some amazing schools out there, and I've tried to do a little bit of networking and to find out a little bit about what like this role would look like, what a PE teacher role would look like there. And obviously completely different climate, looking at kind of maybe skiing and things like that would definitely appeal to me, and having my family maybe grow up in that sort of environment would be really cool. I think next few years, develop in my role here and try and improve, but then it will probably be looking to go back to Europe and be close to family.
Sounds great. That sounds awesome, and Europe is a great place to live, and we know that they're a little bit more south, a little bit more warm, but you're very warm in Singapore right now. So skiing is nice. Scott, we want to thank you. Also from my part, very friendly. We contacted on LinkedIn. I asked you to come on, and you're very friendly, and I really appreciate that. It's amazing how all these people you connect with on LinkedIn, you just ask them to come on, and they're very positive about the podcast. We both appreciate that, CD and I, and that's why we do it, just to connect people and to learn from each other. So I want to thank you so much for being here today and share your expertise and your story with us.
No, thank you guys. It's been a pleasure. As I say, when you approached me, I've now seen the Athletics for Life, and learned so much already from you guys. So keep up the great work. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks a lot,
thank
Scott, and good luck with the newborn.
Yeah, likewise.
Thanks.
Let's stay in touch, guys.
Definitely.
Stay in touch. Thank you so much, Scott.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya. All right, we just sat down with Scott Hooper out of Singapore, middle school athletic director and PE teacher. Great interview. The interesting takeaway for me was how they're going to switch to five-a-side. We talked to a lot of athletic directors about managing COVID and government restrictions, and most of the time that's when can you play? Can you play? Yes or no? Can you have spectators? Yes or no? So this is the first one that I've heard that's been five-a-side or some limitations. So I would be very interested to see some of those five or even four-a-side volleyball games, or rugby with just a handful of kids on either side, and what rules are going to change and come out of that. And I imagine there's going to be some really kind of funny or interesting moments that happen in some of those games that, it might go back to normal in a year or two. It might be something that they stick with forever, but, for sure there's going to be something where it's just different because there's only 5 kids out there when there's supposed to be 6, or, 7-a-side if you're playing small-sided football, or 11 if it's 11-a-side football. And now you're just playing, 5 kids. And I'd be just really interested to see how that turns out for them. And, I wish them the best of luck. And, at least the kids are getting a chance to play and getting that opportunity to compete again, which is really, really big.
Yeah, that's great. Interesting way of handling it, right? Like, we have all kinds of COVID protocols and things, but if you have just 5-a-side, if that's it makes life easier. But that's really cool. I'm just want to thank Scott for being on the podcast. Nice to talk to. I'm just intrigued about the size of their program. It's just a lot going on. We both work at smaller schools, and you look at these people at these massive international schools, and you're like, how do they do it? Scott was talking about being a people person, talking to people and working with people. I think that's very important, especially at a big place with a lot of people involved in the program. But they seem to have it under control over there. Also, he's talking about they were online for 12 weeks, but still had time to rethink some of the things they were doing. He talked about a new program they're implementing, the Be Well program, activities council, student leadership programs, a lot of things that are going on for the kids, not only playing, but more holistically. That I found it very interesting that they had the time to even rethink it with such a short online period compared to some other schools.
Yeah. It's just amazing how much these guys think of.
Right. Very creative.
There's just so many things going on.
Yeah, and he mentioned also in his PD, his professional learning, some of the Globetrotting ADs and some other stuff that's going on. I think if it gave us one thing is people sharing more, people connecting more. And, PD is not always doing an extra degree or something else. It's at one point, it's, connecting with people, talking to people. This is some of the best PD that we've had, just talking to people and pick their brains and you just steal their best ideas. That's what we do.
Yeah.
But that's been very valuable, again, to hear from Scott today.
Yeah. And, one thing that we bring it up most shows, not every show, but it's just that balance, right? That
Yeah.
work home balance. And it's something that ADs, especially new ADs, right? The young guys that are really, really into it and really passionate, are willing to give up all their time. I
All
remember,
the time.
when I was first starting coaching and I was always in the gym, I would come in on the weekends and oh, you guys want to come in the gym? Sure, I'll be there. I can supervise. And, at a point, if you start to have a family and you start to have kids of your own, and you've got to find that balance. You've got to find, okay, I'm going to stay after on these days. These are the days I can give my time to my program. But these days are the days that I'm going to give to my family and to my kids. Right. And so, yeah, it's just really important to have that balance. It's just more than anything, so you don't burn out, so you can always give your best to both. So yeah, hopefully if any athletic directors are hearing this, to just something to be mindful of and to kind of remember is what we do is important, but also those people at home are just as important.
Yeah, and also Scott was talking about the mental health and of course the balance, at home and at school, but also for yourself. You have, and Scott likes to train, likes to be fit. You got to take care of yourself first, and working 24/7, you can do it for a while. And we've done it. We had those times where we just is this our house? I haven't seen it for a while, but you have to take care of yourself. So stay fit, do yoga, meditate, whatever, eat healthy. You got to take care of yourself, and then you can take care of the rest. I think that's very important. And that's something that Scott was talking about, and the message is very clear. So once again, we want to thank Scott Hooper for being on the podcast today. We never met him before. I just contacted him on LinkedIn. Very happy to go on the podcast. He watched a few episodes, and it's so nice to just talk to people you've never met before, and just you hit it off, and you talk about things that you have in common and you have a passion about. So again, Scott, thank you so much. Wishing you all the best. Hopefully we can meet each other in the future, face to face. And hope you all enjoyed the podcast.
Yeah, thank you everyone who's at home listening or watching. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can catch us on the next one. Take care, everybody.
Take care.